Welcome to the Creativity Jam for 2022, where we are connecting to our creative bliss and inspiring each other with rituals and practice that help us move and make, muse, and get into meditative flow. I'm Jen Balco, the founder of Always On My Way, and the host and creator of the Fierce Awakened Woman Global Online Conference. Before we get started with today's session, give yourself a moment to drop in and check in with yourself. Pull in all of the tendrils of your attention back into this moment in time, into this space that you're in, whether you're watching this live during the event or checking in with it afterwards. It's all good, but just feel your awareness rolling back to you so that you can hear and see what it is that you need to see and hear today. Take a deep breath. Begin to tune into your body and your mind, your heart, your spirit, taking on the role of the sound engineer and just adjusting the knobs so that everything in your being and in your space right now feels like it's in harmony. Tuning into your intuition, beginning to feel what fierce and fun and fantastic feels like, and then tuning yourself so that your joy leads you through this creativity session today. Take another breath. Exhale. And as you settle in and get into a comfortable position, whatever that feels like for you today, let me tell you a little bit about novelist Kim Purcell, our guest and featured speaker in this session. Kim has some really juicy ideas for how we can bring more joy into our writing process and help you get through the first draft of the book you've always wanted to write. Sounds good, doesn't it? Kim has written 2 critically acclaimed novels published by Penguin and Hyperion, as well as many other novels, each of which have given her precious gifts to further her growth. She's a big believer in writing for oneself as a way to process experiences and discover personal joy and peace. As a writing teacher and creativity coach, Kim has helped many other writers let go of stress and finish their books. She's also written a daily guide to help people write a memoir or a novel called 100 Days of Joyful Drafting, a busy person's guide to starting and finishing the book of their heart. You can find out more about Kim and her upcoming events at 15minutenovelist.com. That's 15minutenovelist.com. Or by going to kimpurcell.com. That's KIMPURCELL.com. In today's session, Kim is talking to us about how writing a book is a joy marathon. So settle in, give yourself a little bit of space to see and hear what's going to come through today. And let's welcome Kim into our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits today and follow her wisdom wherever it takes us. Hi, Kim, and thank you for joining me today. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this summit. It's so great. It's really a great idea.
Thank you. And thank you for saying yes. I have a feeling that we need more of this creative empowerment and joy making as we kind of come out of the pandemic, whatever that is going to be about. But I have a feeling we just need to come together as community and start creating.
Well,
And
I mean, what's so interesting is that after former pandemics, we have had massive creative uh, uh, revolutions, really. So there we can expect that to happen now too.
oh, I hope so. Have you been really creative during these last couple years? And
Well, one thing that, as with everybody, we all struggle because many of us have kids, and the kids couldn't be in school, and how do you keep your family feeling joyful and in this climate of worry and so like everyone, I think there was a pause for me creatively, like, oh, this is really hard. And then I thought, well, um, I returned to my sort of spiritual practice, my creative practice. And my focus over the pandemic was really, how can I uplift others? How can I make other people find a little bit of joy in their life through story? And so I started offering um, writing sessions where we would just join together, and I would give a quick prompt, and then everyone would write together, and that collective energy uplifted people every week. And people said to me, wow, without you I would have totally stopped writing, and I was really going down a rabbit hole of worry and sadness and stress, and so that doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help us, it doesn't help our families, and it doesn't help everyone we're coming in contact with. And just as a general life philosophy, I try to make people feel better when they're around me, and try to recognize the beauty and the joy and the creativity in every person. So, and I have a particular passion for teens and kids. That's why I write books for teens, but I actually write I've started writing a novel for adults, and I've written a couple younger kid books. So those are all in the pipeline. It takes quite a long time for the publishing side of it. So we're not talking about that. It's more about the joy of writing. And that's really been my focus. Like, how can people embrace story as a way to, um, tap into flow, and also to just have a bit of joy within their own imagination, you know?
and how did you come to that? Like, how did you discover this
Well,
a
I've been
superpower?
teaching teens and kids for many, many years,
Yeah.
like for 20 years. And what I notice is that they're not thinking about publishing, they're thinking about, I'm going to tell this cool story. And then they get into it, and they say, oh, then the spaceship is going to come, and it's going to, grab it can be the scariest story, then it's going to tear their limbs apart. I mean,
And then it ends just like that. And then it ended.
they're like, "Ah, it's so much fun." I had one kid write a story this year about a sandwich that came alive. And I was like, "Oh, that's the greatest story." I mean, and it's so much fun. And so this is what I notice in my kids and teens, the true deep passion and joy that they hold on to with their stories. They're not thinking about these external validations. They're just thinking, like, ooh, that would be so fun to have happen.
Uh-huh.
And then they type away. And so I teach novel writing to kids, teens, and adults, because I believe in the power of telling a longer story. There is something about it that is such a huge accomplishment. And for me, at least, I see the kids and the teens, they develop what I call creative confidence. And I mean, this is this creative confidence has been explored academically, and it's not like my term, but in connection to novel writing, the more creative confidence you have, the more you write, the less you stop yourself, the more you dive into the physical element of like being the character as you're writing, and the more you sort of exit any kind of stress or anxiety or difficulty from your own body. So it's also a real therapy because you're getting rid of difficult feelings and bringing in the joy of imagination and creativity, connecting to flow. So just spiritually, it's an incredible practice, and it doesn't have to take, people think that, oh, I have to sit down for hours and hours, but actually I've developed this system where you only have to write for 15 minutes a day. 15-minute sprint and you would be finished a novel or memoir in a year.
Wow.
And everyone can do 15 minutes. Look at all the time we spend on Facebook or Twitter or like, and we feel like, oh, did I get anything out of it? I just spent an hour wasting my life. And so instead of the hour of that feeling of like, you know, you could develop a practice and finish a novel, and it doesn't have to be for being published. It can be like, I wrote this thing. I've written so many books and only two have been published, because I'm like, what is ready for being published, and do I want to do all the multiple drafts that it requires for it to be traditionally published? Of course you can self-publish, but then that's for you and your friends usually, and that's fine too. But in terms of like writing a novel as a joy practice, I don't think we should even be thinking of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally agree. I think this is part of the problem with writing. You know, you sit down and you think, "Oh, I'm going to go do this big project that's going to get out in the world and be published and be an Amazon bestseller overnight and it's going to launch me to the New York Times bestseller list." And the reality is that may not be the goal. The goal is simply to
Well,
just tell your story sometimes, isn't it?
there is that we suddenly get into ego. So this is, anytime you're looking for external validation or external ego boost, you're not deriving that joy and happiness from inside. So you're saying, please love me. Please say I'm wonderful. Please put me on this list and that list. And even with my novels, which did make some pretty top lists, I've made, um, my last book was one of the best books of 2018, according to NPR. So, though, again, there were many books that should have been on that list. You know what I mean? So it's this silly external validation that, you know, um, you have to think like, I have other books. In fact, I have one book with an agent right now that
Congratulations.
perfectly matches me and is so perfectly exactly what I want to bring to the world. And we'll see if it gets published, right? Who knows?
Who
So
knows? Who knows?
external validation, but the internal validation is like, I did it. I created this thing of beauty. And whether we'll see if the external, world agrees, but it has to be first for you. It has to be pure in that way. And it's just like when you paint, if you're painting a painting, you're not painting the painting, or no painter originally is painting this painting as they're painting it, thinking, this is going to be in a big gallery. I'm going to make $20,000 from this painting. They don't do that. They are in flow. They're like, where does this color go? Oh, I want to create this kind of feeling. And so then that's what they're doing. And in the end, they might be like, huh, oh, it didn't work out. Okay, I'm gonna put that over here. Okay, let's start a new painting. But the joy of painting was alive within them as they painted. And then it's when it's finished, then they're like, okay, well, where does this go? And so that's it. And when I say finish for a novel, it may take 20 rewrites. So in order for it to reach the level that, more people are going to want to read it, and that it's going to be that, and you may not want to revise it that much, or you might not want to do what's required for it to be more mainstream so that more people will want to read it. So you know I believe that novel writing should transition to being open to everybody, and that it's not this elitist thing, that everyone can do it. 15 minutes a day, you can create novels, and it can be a joyful practice.
I'm going to come back to this because the joyful practice part is what we're going for here at the Fierce Awakened Woman. This creativity jam is about creating the practice around expressing your creativity.
Yep.
But before we dive into how other people are doing it, what are some practices that you bring into your own space as you're opening to creative flow? And I know also you're a Kundalini yoga teacher and you're bringing mindfulness out into the world and into your own space. How are you tying all of this together in your own practice?
Well, I think a huge part about being a novelist is being a sharp observer of humanity, and you're really reflecting humanity, and you are connecting to the pain and the insecurity and all the tough things that we all face, and giving a sense of compassion to it on the page. So we're not all writing happy, that's boring writing, right? That's not. So when we're talking about joy in writing, a lot of the joy comes from diving into the dark
Mm.
and the difficult, and then creating fun weird things like sandwiches chasing you. But in fact, diving into the weird is part of what makes any kind of writing come alive. And so in terms of sort of spiritual practice, I think it's just acknowledging um, the rawness within all of us, within me, within everyone I see, and that compassion to bringing, like, oh, look at that lady in the grocery store. She's losing her mind. What does that look like? So that's the writer side. That's like, look at how she's tapping her finger. Look at, oh gosh, look in her cart. What does she have in that cart? um, and not with judgment. That's the interesting thing. That's where the spiritual practice comes in. Because as soon as judgment comes in, then you're saying, I'm better than you, right? And whereas just recognizing that, gosh, being a human is hard, you know, and wow, look at those comfort foods in her cart. Oh, let me give you a big spiritual hug, and now I'm going to write about you.
It's, I love that you say that because I'm always eyeing, what people have in their shopping carts. And then I often wonder,
Interesting.
like, what does my wide array of different things and junk food, say about me? Like, what story are people writing about me behind, as they're standing in line, watching life go by?
Well, exactly. And it's also part of the spiritual practice is noticing when you are off. Like, oh, what does that feel like when I'm off?
Hmm.
Oh, hello, reactive mind, and then, oh, okay, I'm going to use that in my writing. And just I think it just leads to the feeling of observation of ourselves and of others, and the awareness that, wow, we're all evolving humans, and that's what a story is about. How do you take someone through an evolution of spirit? How do you take someone from this difficult place they're in, throw more challenges at them, and then how do they grow? How do we all grow through really tough things? And when we're in the middle of the tough thing, it can be like, oh my gosh, can this tough thing stop, please? But in the end, that's what makes us a more evolved human, and able to tap into flow and joy and everything else, once we're on the other side. So in story, we take a character through that journey, and I have found with each novel I write that I too go through a journey of growth. So for me, that's why novel writing Memoir too, because it's sort of reflective, but novel, you can really kind of separate in doing so. Um, you dive even more deeply into the human experience. So there's that. But in my philosophy of joy, one of the things I do with my writing is that every day when I'm writing, I even try to play with my own writing. So, like, for example, I'll just give you an example because I have this right next to my desk. Okay, so I have, like, these cards that you get from the hardware store.
Uh-huh. Oh, the paint. Yeah, the paint samples.
Cards. Okay, so, but these are so fun for writing. You can get a ton of them. And then as you're writing, you just grab one and you can put that color in your scene. But also, like this says, sophisticated lilac. So, as a fun joy practice, as you're writing, you're like, okay, I'm going to get this color in and I'm going to get sophisticated lilac in my scene. And so that's just an example of like a fun thing that you can do to add more joy to the writing. So, I think some people, when they write, they're like, I must write the quote unquote great novel of all time. And then they're stuck, like they're not in flow. They're not in a place where they can download. Because I think that's really what many writers talk about, that when you're writing an incredible scene, it's like a download, like you're pulling it and it's like, whoa, I wrote that. I can't believe I wrote that. But that's because you were in flow. So, in order to get into that flow space, sometimes it's very helpful to have something like this to remind you about play and about joy.
I I totally agree, and I'm so glad you brought that up because when you approach writing and the blanks, facing the blank page is already hard enough sometimes, depending on where you're at. But having just, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write about sophisticated lilac for 10 minutes. It gives you the automatic in to something
Right.
that you hadn't thought about at all,
No,
probably before
and
you
a
picked the
character
card.
in your head or a setting, and you're like, whoa, this is fun. All right, let's see what sophisticated lilac lady has to show me.
That's right. That's right. And well, let me go back too, because as you move through the joy marathon of writing, and it is a cathartic experience that gets you deeper into the human experience. Is there like one or two things that you've noticed about bringing, going deeper into the human experience and how you come out the other side of that creates a different ripple effect out in the world? Like, what have you noticed in that process for you?
Well, I think for me, the teaching of writing has been my way of creating a joy ripple effect on the world. So I teach um, adults, and then the ripple effect is down to their families because they're going after a long held dream. And if you look at how many people have always wanted to write a book, and they're like, oh, I've always wanted to write a book. And then they don't. I mean, I can't even tell you how often I've heard that. And a lot of novelists get annoyed by that. They're like, okay, great. Well, I've spent 10 years trying to perfect the practice and I have my MFA. And they get like their backs up because it bugs them. Like nobody who's an architect hears, oh, yeah, I've always wanted to design a house. I'm going to become an architect tomorrow. You know? So many writers feel that way. And I did at one point because I was like, gosh, why does everyone think they can write a book? And then I started teaching kids and teens to write books. And I was like, actually, I do think everyone can write a book and it should be accessible to everyone. And that we need to open the doors to, hey, this is an amazing spiritual practice and everyone should do it. And it's actually pretty easy when you break it down into small steps. So I've written a book, a daily guide on how to write a novel in so I wrote this book, and then I um, wrote another one for teens, and then I wrote another one for kids. And so I've been test marketing all these books, and I'm hoping it will come out in the next month or so. we'll see, or it may even be out by the time this conference launches. But because I just feel like it needs to be open to all people so that, yes, your dream can happen. And it doesn't have to take hours and hours and hours a day, to get that first draft.
Right. And it's just the practice of getting to the first draft. Get
Yeah,
to the first draft and then get all the way through it and then
exactly.
decide what the next step is. You could go
Right.
back and revise, you could put it in a drawer, you could hand it to your friends. That's not the
Exactly.
creative process. The creative process is to just meet the page.
First, write it.
Right.
Don't have it in your head for years. Thinking, I want to write a book. Like, it's a heavy weight if that's your thing. So for me, the joy has been showing people that yes, you can finish these books. You can write. And maybe your first one is a practice book, and then you write another one and another one. And then, oh, wait, this one's pretty good. I think other people might like it. You know what I mean? And then, but you can say, yeah, I wrote a book. I did it.
Right.
And it doesn't, it can be something that you acknowledge to yourself. I ran that marathon. I ran that book marathon. I
That's right.
ran it and I did it every day and I trained a little bit and a little bit and I developed my creative power. And then look what I got.
Yeah.
And I will say, what I noticed most of all is from the parents of my kid and teen students. They say that this ripple effect has occurred in all of their schoolwork. And I will, writing a novel for a kid means that they have to develop every kind of skill, including telling detail, using strong details.
Mhm.
And you need to do that for any essay, you need to do that for any argument. But I will also say that storytelling is a key skill in almost every profession. So, it for anybody, if they write a novel, they'll become better storytellers. So, a doctor needs to tell the story to their patient so that they become convinced that taking this medicine would be good for them. Or, a scientist needs to use storytelling in order to defend to get funding for a big research study. So, architects need to tell the story of a home. Going back to architects. Do
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, we all use storytelling in whatever profession we choose to be in. So writing a novel develops those really core storytelling skills.
Well, and I know I want to mention this right here because this seems like the good place to mention it is that that is one of your free gifts is that you're offering 5 different workshops that will help jumpstart this and get people writing memoir and fiction.
Exactly. So I will help you. We'll do one on character, developing your characters. So if it's a memoir, it would be the younger you character. Really, memoir and novel writing, not so different. You're telling stories. And so we'll develop character, we'll develop setting, we'll develop plot, and then I'll get you started writing your first few scenes so that you got the ball rolling and then you can keep going.
And remind us how we can get those. It's an email, right? People have to send you an email
So
to.
there are two ways. So I have a website,
Mhm.
15minutenovelist.com, and I will have the 5 free workshops up on that website.
Okay.
You can sign up for my newsletter through that website, and then I'll send them directly to you. And the other thing is you can send me an email, and that's kim@kimpurcell.com. So either way. And so I hope that you will, yeah, I hope that you'll take advantage of that. And I'm also going to be teaching just a quick 15-minute, exploring your potential stories. And so you can try that workshop as a part of this conference too.
No, and we'll definitely have that all up on your speaker page, all the ways that they can access this great information and get in touch with you for doing this because I agree. I think after all we've been through in the last couple years, we're going to see this burst of story that needs to be shared and told and new ways of sharing that.
Mhm.
So thank you for offering that and thank you for being available and sharing all of this joy about writing and not making it feel like I'm going to show up at my desk and write 1,500 words
Never
today.
should be like that. It should never be like that. It doesn't have to be. There's so many things you can do to make it feel fun, and then suddenly the writing comes alive on top of that. Mhm.
Well, and tell us a little bit about the practice that you're going to lead us through
So,
today.
well, we're in the workshop after this, yeah. So we're going to do some story idea developing, and then we're going to just do a few paragraphs just to help you get started, just to have a little moment of that joy writing. So it will really take almost no time. So I hope people will stay tuned and just give it a little try. Why not?
Why not? This is what we're here for this weekend. It's the creativity jam. Give yourself a few minutes. Go grab your pen, paper, laptop. I guess they could do it on their laptop if they want, right, Kim?
Totally. I believe in that. Also, they can bring one of the things I try to tell my students is honestly, if you walk around with a purse or a bag, bring, well, sorry, bring just a small notepad like that, anything. Doesn't have to be a fancy journal. In fact, I argue against it because then it's too precious and everything in it has to be perfect. But just bring any old um an ugly notebook everywhere you go.
Ugly
And
notebooks. I have so many of them just
yes,
sitting around. Ugly notebooks.
well, I mean, the thing is, when you're in the line at the grocery store, or when you're, if you have kids, if you're waiting for them to be done ballet, or you're sitting outside the car, what do we do now? We pick up our phone, and I will say we go to CNN, we go to Instagram and go, oh, we get in our like kind of negative space, and sometimes social media uplifts, and I hope that we're all trying to do that in our social media. But I mean, truthfully, most of us are not, after a phone session, we're not like, oh, I feel so much better.
Right. And I'm gonna go write my great novel now because I saw.
Yeah, I mean, when we meditate, if we meditate for even a minute during that time, we can feel better. So if the purpose of life is to actually I mean, if we're really trying to create a little more joy in our life, and picking up the phone is the opposite of that. So what can be better is grab your notebook and write a little description for your next scene. Or so everywhere you go, you bring that notebook. That's another way to finish a novel in an incredibly short amount of time. Every time you pick up your phone, instead of that, you pick up the notebook, and it's amazing how much work you get done, how much work on your novel. And when you're done, you're like, I wrote. I feel very successful and happy and joyful.
And that is it's an accumulation of the work and effort that you're putting in. And if you make it not feel like an effort, then yeah, give it a go. Stick around, do this practice that Kim is offering, and then tell us about it. Come back in either on the Fierce Awakened Woman Facebook group or in the YouTube video or in the comment section that we'll have live in the Zoom room. Come and tell us how your experience was. What did you get out of it? Let us know. And we'd love to, yeah, you have a story to tell, right, Kim?
Everyone has a story. Everyone has multiple stories. They have, sandwiches that come alive, or aliens, or heartbreak.
Heartbreak.
Everything is open.
Everything.
Everything.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited.
Me. I can't wait to help everyone write.
And just again, all of Kim's information will be on her speaker page and listed in the Facebook group and everywhere. So stay in touch with her and get at it. Come on, 15 minutes a day. Grab your notebook and we'll get started.
Hi, everyone. I hope you grabbed yourself a drink and a notebook and a pen. You can also type on your computer. We're going to have a lot of fun. Remember, writing is supposed to be joyful. It is an art form. And so, like all art forms, it's supposed to help you access that creative, joyful, imaginative part of yourself. And the problem happens when we start thinking about external validation instead of internal joy. And you can have joy no matter what kind of story you're writing. So we're going to start out today with developing a character, and then we'll develop some setting, and then an idea for a scene, and then you're going to do what I call a 15-minute sprint. This is one of the best ways to kind of get into flow and to access that true creative self inside of you. And this is good for published novelists to beginners. It works for everyone. I do it for 8-year-olds, and I do it for advanced novelist friends of mine. So this works for anybody. You write as fast as you can, and you imagine the scene ahead of time so that you can really flow. Okay, but let's start off with the character, and we'll build from there. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on character because the best stories come from character, but that does not mean that you don't have an exciting plot. You do. You develop your exciting plot around your characters. So what makes a good character? Well, it helps if they're relatable, likable, fascinating. They don't have to be likable, but they do have to be interesting. Okay, let's, you do need a blank piece of paper for this particular exercise, or a lined piece, whatever. This only works because we're going to draw. First, draw a stick figure. If you ever need to pause me because I'm going too fast, or you have to write in more, go ahead, pause, and then keep going. All right, you're going to draw clothes on this stick figure character, and you're going to write opinions about these clothes. So this is your main character, but if you're already a novelist and you want to work on a side character, whatever, that's fine too. Next, you're going to draw the hair and face. Write opinions about their hair and face, their opinions in their voice. We're developing this character's voice. All right, next you're going to draw injuries, scars, unusual features, and you're going to write their feelings and their thoughts about these particular features. Go ahead and pause me. I'm going to keep going. All right, now you're going to start with the feet and go up the body. So this kind of ties into mindfulness, meditation, and being very aware in your own body. Because as you write, you want to write from the body. You're seeing the scene through your character's eyes, smelling what they smell, hearing what they hear. So becoming very aware of what your own bodily experience is very helpful in terms of developing character and building story. So let's start off with the feet. Sorry, going back. Now it's jumping all over the place. Sorry, let me go back. Okay, so we're going to start from the feet, and you're going to think about, what do they think about their feet? Do they walk fast? Do they walk slow? What kind of shoes do they choose? All that kind of thing. Okay, now we're going to go up to the belly, and you're going to draw a line out. We hold in this lower triangle, we hold a lot of our fears and anger and ambition. So draw lines out from the belly, the lower triangle, and write down what their fears are, what they get angry about, and what do they deeply want or yearn for. Okay, Now we're going to go to the heart. Draw a line from the heart and write what they love. Let's move up to the throat. You're going to write about whatever secrets they have, anything they don't want to say. So basically, the words are getting caught here rather than flowing out. Now let's draw a line from their mouth and write whatever expressions they might have. As you notice, I've changed my character in the pictures. Got to give a little bit of and this is an older dude, and he likes to say dude. Now draw a line from the brain and write their interests, their knowledge. Your characters should be differentiated. It makes it more interesting. So if they have different interests, different knowledge, it will make your story come alive. Now draw a line from the top of the head and write any what their spirituality is, what their beliefs are. This guy thinks maybe Jesus, maybe UFOs. Okay. All right. So that's it. You have a character. Now what? All right. So you can develop this character further. You can talk about more about their body parts, what they feel, if you focus on the arms, do they throw a baseball? Do they, are they cooking? Whatever they do with their different body parts, you can develop that further. You should have a page filled with writing by the end. And then you can develop your character further by what I like to call method writing. You walk around like your character, you dress like your character, you do activities your character would do, and you can visit the locations your character might go to and take notes. You can even do a family dance party as your character. You can all dress up. If you don't have kids, do it with a group of friends, artist friends. Very fun. Everybody come as your character. We're having a dance party. You can dress up as your character any old time. And you can create an object display for your character. I really believe in this because it makes writing fun. So you're kind of stuck. You're like, oh, what am I going to write about? Oh gosh, I can't think what my scene will be. Okay, let's go to joy. Let's have fun. So then you grab something from your object display and you think, okay, I got this necklace thing here. All right, I'm going to include this in a scene. And an object display also has an added benefit of reminding you, oh, that's my reminder that I was planning on writing my novel every day for 15 minutes at least. That's what I recommend, a 15-minute sprint. And then if you're in it, you're in the flow, maybe you have more time, maybe you don't, but there's never that excuse like, I don't have time to write. So object displays can really help bring joy to the writing and add specificity to your scene, which then leads to more creativity within the scene. You can also create a Pinterest board, everything that they wear, or you can put different objects on your Pinterest board. Maybe you don't have time to go to a thrift shop and gather all the objects, so you make a Pinterest board. These are all different ways to add a little bit more life to your story and a little bit more joy to the writing itself. Okay, so we're going to write a scene. All right, so right now, brainstorm what crazy, fun, scary thing can happen in the scene to this character. Do you want to add in another character? It's useful to brainstorm 20 things. Often the last few will be the ones that really pop. Okay, now let's see if you can brainstorm 10 unusual or exciting places to set your story or your scene. We don't want boring places, no bedrooms, no kitchens. You might have to, but let's keep those boring locations to a minimum. And if you must be in the bedroom, try to make an exciting location in the bedroom, or something crazy has to be happening in the bedroom, not a person alone getting dressed. It's just too boring. create more tension, more excitement. And one way to do that is through interesting settings. So if it's in the bedroom, maybe they're hiding under the bed, maybe they're hiding in their closet. Try to make something interesting about that scene. All right, we're going to get going. You're going to write as fast as you can for 15 minutes. You're going to just don't let the hand stop. It's okay if it's not good. We're not editing, we're not researching, we're not doing anything else. You're just writing as fast as you can. I do this with young kids, 8-year-olds, and I do it with teenagers, and I do it with adults. Everybody can write as fast as they can for 15 minutes. And believe me, sometimes that's when the genius comes. My students regularly write 400 words, 500 words in the 15 minutes. And if you just consider that, that's like a page and a half. And if you are able to write a page in 15 minutes for a 300-page book, you'll be done a rough draft in under a year. And just think of all the times you pick up your phone or waste 15 minutes. If you have this dream to write a novel or a memoir, I'm here to tell you you can do it, and you can do it in 15 minutes. Let's prove it to yourself right now. Write as fast as you can, and try to be as joyful in the process as you can, and write as many details in your scene, multi-sensory details, get in your character's body, and make stuff happen. Have a fun time. Ready, go.